Hey guys, that Moarte douchebag wants me to remind you to check out the Long Box of the Damned bumper contest. So that's what I'm doing. Unless you're watching this after the contest is over, in which case, well, check it out anyway. It's revenue for me. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Time to continue the ill-advised, ill-conceived, and just ill-inducing romance book about the secret sex lives of Aunt May, Uncle Ben, and Peter Parker's parents, Trouble. So I got pointed in the direction of a few old articles concerning Trouble from when it was first announced and interviews with Mark Millar and Bill Jemas. First thing of note is that I appreciate that Mark Millar wanted to do something different after he got tons of exposure for the Ultimates and the Authority, something not necessarily superhero themed. And good for him for wanting that, honestly. Often when a creator gets big doing a superhero book, they'll do an indie title afterwards, oftentimes a horror book, but a romance story is pretty different. It's just a pity that the romance he decided to do was incredibly boring, lame, and annoying. One of the things that is clear, though, is that they did, in fact, intend for this to be canon. Sure, they were trying to be wishy-washy about it, going, oh, well, we're not too worried about the continuity, because if the fans don't like it, it doesn't have to be canon. But then Mark Millar went and said he was eager to play with an unexplored area of Marvel history, and wanted the book to be featured proudly next to stuff like Kingdom Come and Marvels, a critically acclaimed book that influenced other stories, or a retelling of the history of the Marvel Universe. And of course, who wouldn't want a cautionary tale of superhero ethics or beholding the wonders of the Marvel Universe unfolding through the eyes of an aging photographer proudly standing alongside a story about Aunt May banging Uncle Ben on a golf course before cheating on him with Peter Parker's dad? They also commented on the bizarre, terrible covers, claiming that that's just what was on girls' romance story novels when they were researching the idea of trying to appeal to young girls with the book. And they mean 9 to 12-year-old girls, according to this stuff. Now, I am not an expert on whatever the hell preteen girls read, but I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here and say the book where Aunt May flashes her boobs at guys in strip poker is not necessarily aimed at your target demographic. But yeah, the story behind Peter Parker's conception. In fact, before the book was renamed Trouble, it was supposed to be called Parents. Bill Jemas also hoped that readers would proudly call this the origin of Spider-Man. Oh yeah, this seems like information essential to what made Spider-Man who he is. Great power and great responsibility, bitten by a radioactive spider, parents were horny, and his dad cheated on his mom with her best friend. What's more, in one case, they said they hoped that the book would be helpful for teenagers going through similar confusing relationship issues and gain some insight from older people who have lived through such hardships. Teenagers, and I cannot stress this enough, do not cheat on your significant other. If you do have sex and get pregnant, do not do what these people do in this comic. I'm not certain what you should do, it's a case-by-case basis, but do not take life advice from people like Mark Millar and Bill Jemas. I mean, say what you will about Mark Millar's own kind of messed up body of work, but sure as hell do not take advice from the man who wrote Marvel. I think that's the best advice I can ever offer teenagers. And it really goes without saying how screwed up their priorities are in this case when they're concerned about the controversy regarding Peter Parker in this book was that he may have been conceived out of wedlock! Oh no! Peter's parents not being married when they boned would truly be the thing that comic fans would hate about this story. Yeah, let's dig into Trouble number 4 and see what people were actually upset about.
Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a pretty hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara,
The cover is actually the best so far we've seen out of this series, namely because it actually feels closer to the concept that they were going for, rather than the first three having preteen girls in bikinis smiling at the reader in a creepy fashion. No, in this case, it's a girl whispering something into a guy's ear and then looking away. There's a lot to interpret about that, but especially given the plot points of secrets, shame, and confessions, it looks more like something that would work for a book trying to appeal to teenagers, and not pre-teens like they were talking about in the interviews. I'm still not fond of it, but this one has the best realization of that idea that we've seen so far. So when we last left off, May had confessed to Mary that she had taken a pregnancy test and confirmed she was, well, pregnant. We open with the recap. Poor May. 1 minute, everything was going great. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. God, I wish the Fire Nation would attack already. That's when she decided to go and make life complicated by cheating on her boyfriend. Cheating on her boyfriend with her best friend's boyfriend, and then finding herself pregnant by one of the above. Complicated is a word to describe a relationship argument concerning wants and desires for your future together. Not when one party is cheating like this! To make things even trickier, she'd kind of been sleeping around a little too, and, well, you get the picture. Oh, awesome! Not only was she cheating on him, she was cheating on him a lot, and the baby might not be either of theirs! That certainly is complicated! This is what Avril Lavigne was singing about, right? Life just isn't as simple as it was when she and Mary finished school and started looking for a summer job. Why is summer capitalized there? Whatever, we truly open with Mary vomiting into a toilet. A common reaction to a Mark Miller story. The tone on the next page is kind of weird. May's clearly suffering here. We even see glistening tears from her eyes, especially considering the seriousness of her situation. But Mary's cracking jokes and being all lighthearted about the whole thing. Yeah, I know, she doesn't know about her and Richie, but it still feels a little unsympathetic for her friend who probably doesn't need this right now. What's more, while we're never quite clear on exactly what age they are, the implication throughout this series is that they're not adults yet. They might be 18 or 19, since that still technically counts as someone being in their teens, but everything about their attitude, the narration, their relationships with their parents, and stuff like that really suggests that they aren't adults yet. So, yeah, teen pregnancy, and we're putting in jokey jokes about May saying she never wants to eat anything for the rest of her life. Cut to the next page where she's ordering a massive breakfast at a diner. How'd you like your eggs? Unfertilized. That being said, I will grant you that that one was funny. I mean, this is not as bad as the tone issues of The Gift, but this book seems to still be trying to be a wacky teen sex comedy when we have veered away from that. There is still dark humor, though, which does work, as May says that she's still wearing sunglasses to hide the fact that she's been crying non-stop for 3 days now. You crying now? Like a baby. But I'm getting pretty good at smiling at the same time, huh? All I have to do is wear sunglasses for the rest of my life and pretend I'm happy when really I'm dying inside. Foolproof plan! It does get serious, and we get a wince-inducing revelation that's not treated with the gravitas it should be. May doesn't want her parents to find out about this since she thinks her dad will kill her, or take it out on her mother again, implying he hits her. Naturally, this is never expanded upon. Just some casual spousal abuse in this romance comic! Mary wants her to figure out who the father is. Oh, come on, you haven't exactly kept your legs crossed since we rolled into town. Gee, thanks for your vote and Tramp of the Year, Mary. For your information, the only people I've slept with since we got here is Ben and that mystery man you meet 3 times a day. Okay, if she's not sleeping with a ton of guys at the resort, why did the opening narration say she was? Did nobody edit this thing? I suppose it's possible she's just lying, but this is treated like she's telling the truth, and there is no reason to lie about this part. May tries to defend her sleeping with guys so much, regardless of how much she's done of it. We've had these really boring lives, Mary. All I wanted the summer to be was fun and as crazy as things are supposed to be when you're our age. This scene brought to you by the middle-aged man who wrote it. You know, like a movie. A really boring, crappy movie. May laughs about how this proves the fortune teller who had told them that if Mary slept with someone before she was 20, she'd end up with a kid and May would never be called mom was completely full of it. Inspired by this, Mary decides to go bang Richie. And once again, the tone has no idea what the hell it's doing because it leads to a comedic montage of sex metaphors, like a rocket taking off, flowers blooming, fireworks, etc.
Sounds like Johnny's getting laid.
They even go at it for hours, according to the dialogue. Truly a story destined to sit alongside Kingdom Come and Marvels. May goes to see Richie, who is apparently having stamina issues after Mary and him have boned so much. May has brought him here to confess about the baby, but before she can do so, Richie says they need to break off their secret sex. Now, I'm a very shallow person, May. I know some people seem shallow when there's really a lot going on underneath, but that's absolutely not the case with me. I'm really just as completely superficial as I appear to be, and now that my real girlfriend and I are doing the dirty deed, you don't need me to get your jollies anymore? May, you make it so easy for me, sweetheart. I knew you'd understand. Peter Parker's dad, everybody! Mary really scored a prize here with this relationship. May decides not to tell him about the baby, claiming she was coming here to break it off with him too. As such, she then sleeps with Ben and the two start having a serious talk, with Ben having a confession of his own to tell her. May admits that she's pregnant to him, and then he has his confession. He's sterile. Look, I know this is a very serious moment and a lot of stuff just hit the fan, but Ben, how do you get your eyeliner to look that incredible? It just makes your eyes look so amazingly pretty. After we learned last time that Ben always got beat up all the time, it turns out he got kicked in the privates one too many times, and thus he's never going to be able to have kids. She confessed to everything, including that she had been sleeping with Richie. Richie goes to see Ben, who's packing up to leave the resort, and he tearfully apologizes. This brings up an earlier conversation they had had about Richie seemingly not being able to accept that Ben had something he didn't, but it's a character arc that doesn't really go anywhere. Richie wants to know if he's gonna tell Mary about it. You're pathetic, you know that? So, is that a yes? With seemingly no other options, May decides to go get a consultation about having an abortion. Regardless of your personal feelings about the subject, for many people, the decision to have an abortion is a serious one, done through soul-searching and weighing options, and can have a heavy emotional and psychological toll on someone, especially someone as young as May, who's already going through a lot given the relationship stuff. So naturally, the most dignified way of depicting this kind of thing is by having a cliched, comedic shoulder angel and devil argument. I'm not kidding.
Atta girl, May. I'm proud of you, honey. You're gonna have a great day at the abortion clinic. Trust me, liquidating that little creep's gonna be like passing a bad Mexican meal. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Well, now I can believe this is a Mark Miller comic. The shoulder angel in this case invokes the idea that this is killing an innocent child, and honestly, from a character perspective, this makes sense. She comes from a highly religious family, and this has probably been ingrained in her all her life to think of it as a baby, regardless of the development stage, so it's understandable that a reflection of her own psyche would think that way. Conversely, though, it doesn't speak well of her own psychology and how she referred to the process itself. What the hell, shoulder devil?
Can the Catholic school garbage, sweetie. She ain't listening. You're talking about somebody who's been fooling around with her pal's boyfriend, for cripe's sake.
You know, it's great that they wanted this story to be helpful to teens going through these same problems, with teen pregnancy certainly being one of those issues they might face. Which is why framing the possibility of an abortion as a hideously immoral, murderous act on par with cheating on your boyfriend with your best friend's boyfriend is a garbage take, comic!
No, the fact is that if she goes home with a bun in the oven, her old man's gonna knock the hell out of both May and her mom!
Yeah, it really seems like that should be something we're talking about as well, comic!
The fact is that unless she squishes this little punk, she's gonna have a 5-year-old on her arm when all her friends are showing off college degrees. Better than having a murder on your conscience.
Again, this brought to you by a middle-aged dude. May is finally sick of the two comical representations of her ethical struggle.
Geez, would you guys shut up a second, please? I think there might be a third option that pleases just about everybody.
You should eat Richie.
Thanks, Shoulder Spider. The next morning, Mary wakes up late to find a message left to her from May. She's decided to run away. She'll have the baby and try to make a life for herself out there, allowing her to avoid facing her parents, as well as avoid having to get an abortion. She stole money that Mary has been saving up, but says she's the best friend she ever had, and apologizes for letting her down in more ways than you'll ever know. Spoilers, she finds out next issue. And so our comic ends with May hitchhiking, getting picked up by a guy heading for Georgia, while Mary tearfully tells Richie about all this. I don't know about you guys, but I think this is gonna work out just fine for May. Yeah, this comic sucks. Some people disagreed with my review of the Gift Batman storyline a few weeks ago by saying it was dark humor. And if you have that opinion, that's fine, but sometimes tone is important, and some situations do not call for jokey jokes. And this is one of them. A line of dark humor here or there works, but definitely not in trouble, and definitely not when the creators are supposedly so concerned with telling a story like this for a younger audience. It's not helpful, and in fact potentially harmful to the young person who takes such lessons to heart. And the fact that they're relying on tired comedy cliches in some parts, plus the lack of internal consistency in some areas, really makes it feel not only old-fashioned, but not understanding the issues they're talking about. Sometimes it feels like they get it, and then it starts moralizing and being rather judgy of the women. Hell, aside from the brief tiff between Ben and Richie, there is no real consequences for the guys and all their decisions. Unless you call a baby punishment, which is horse crap. Oh, and in case you hadn't guessed, yeah, the baby that May is pregnant with, that's Peter. That is why Spidey fans were pissed, Marvel, not for the being born out of wedlock stuff, but because you tried to make Aunt May Peter's biological mother as a result of an affair. I feel like I should get into how this also retcons the already established backstory of Richard and Mary as secret agents, but that feels kind of insignificant compared to the idea that Aunt May is Peter's true mother. Next time, we have a Patreon-sponsored review that will also show differing tones in the same series as we look at 2 chapters of the manga Frankenfran. A quote from Mark Miller. It doesn't feel like a Marvel superhero book, so it doesn't fit in the Marvel universe, and it has no adult contents or violence or language, so we wanted something that would appeal to people in the same way that Spider-Man appeals to people, in that you can read it when you're 9 or when you're an adult. Yeah, no adult content whatsoever, so a 9-year-old can read it. I know when I think stories for all ages, teenagers screwing and contemplating abortion is the first thing that comes to mind.
Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.